Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Man, do we got a big, deep one today. So yeah, this is going to be a state of gaming. This is talking about the censorship in video games. We're going to be going over quite a bit of stuff. A lot of it is recent, but we're also going to be going over some other things that are expanding, working into law right now, and we're also going to be looking into some past things that have at least happened in the United States or around the world. So this video probably will be a longer one, and but yeah, this stuff is important to cover because while there should be protections, the government usually does a pretty bad job. Okay, pretty bad job. Now let's talk about Steam. So we had some games that were removed. Apparently, some are saying there were 100 or that there were hundreds that were actually removed. And this basically came from Collective Shout that was taking the time to basically go after the payment processors. Now, if you don't know anything about them, they're an anti-corn organization, mostly probably made up of women. And they were going after these games on Steam, and what they tried before hadn't worked. So now they were going after the payment processors like Visa and Mastercard, and basically Visa and Mastercard were like, "Yeah, we're not gonna allow that, with these purchases." And so Steam quickly bent over and was like, "Okay, yeah, well, basically the majority." Let me actually look this up real quickly. So anyway, this is just in amounts of money, but as you can see, every year it just gets bigger, right? We're getting close to $1 trillion. And this is just Visa. This does not include MasterCard. But when you take a look at everything put together, there is basically, it's like 60 or 70% of the entire world actually uses Visa and MasterCard. So in short, to say that Steam is worried about losing out on a lot of sales, just not in the United States, but just globally, yeah, that's probably a big deal. Because if Visa and MasterCard ultimately don't feel like that they can allow Steam to use their services for that money, and again, it's not your money, it's not the company's money, it's their money because it's credit. You're borrowing their money to buy stuff, but this also would go to debit cards. This would also go to pretty much anything else that has a Visa or MasterCard on it. So it wouldn't just be limited to credit cards. It could be everything else, and this is why Steam bent over so quickly. It's because a lot of their payments are actually either through a Visa or through a MasterCard. It doesn't have to be a credit card. It can be debit or a gift card or something else. But yeah, working around that would probably take too long and could ultimately sink Steam. So they worked on just removing the content. Now, again, they didn't look at the content. Again, the content that they did remove was very sexually explicit and very adult oriented. And yeah, I don't care for those games at all. I don't, again, think they should be on there. And I don't think people, of course, should be playing those games. But again, that's my opinion. That's my view. But that doesn't mean that I think that it should be censored necessarily. Okay, if adults want to play adult games, adults can do that. Okay, it's their life, it's their money. They should be able to do that. But yeah, they worked on just removing a lot of this. And now they've also Steam has added a change saying that a new policy that content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors, Visa and MasterCard, and related card networks and banks or internet providers. So they're just like encompassing everybody now, because even too, if providers don't want to allow that type of content to be used through their portal system, again, they don't have to do that. They don't have to do anything like that. They can make rules and they can change some of this stuff. And so, again, understand, if you don't own it, if you don't control it, if you don't have it in your hand, it's not yours, right? And the payment processing, the internet use, all of that stuff, it's usually ran through somebody else. And when one person starts doing it, or these big companies that basically have biopolies, two companies in tandem like Visa and MasterCard decide, hey, we want to change something, then it becomes incredibly impossible to actually kind of do anything. So again, for right now, it's adults only, but this is not just adults only content. Again, they did not technically check much of this. And the fact that they're using the word may and including payment processors, related card networks, and banks or internet network providers, again, they're just trying to work ahead for the future of what they think is coming. And that's really kind of scary because it really turns into a form of censorship. Now, for right now, hey, it's games I don't care about. Tomorrow it can be, oh, we don't want violence in video games. Well, frick, that's like most of them. And then who gets to decide what that means, what the definition is, what games are included in that? It's not us. That's where the problem is. So let's keep going. This was a response ultimately from Visa. Good God, the ads are insane. Saying, in response shared by one gamer, Visa noted it explicitly prohibits illegal activity. Again, those games are not illegal, while also sharing a commitment to protecting legal commerce. Okay, how are they protecting it when they're preventing it? That doesn't make any sense. More specifically, the payment company noted that, quote, if a transaction is legal, our policy is to process the transaction. We do not make moral judgments on legal purchases made by customers. So again, the law can shift and change, but they're not going to let their own beliefs or opinions get in the way, right? That's what they're saying. But it's not illegal. It's not illegal to buy those games. And why are Visa and MasterCard bending over to a group in Australia? Because everything that they've tried beforehand hasn't worked. And so now they're pushing. Now they feel like they've probably gotten some power, and now they're going to continue to push for other stuff. I even see right now that they're even threatening to sue Smash JT, one of the YouTubers on YouTube, simply because he's been talking and discussing about this topic. And it doesn't necessarily have to stop with him. Now, exactly what he said and how he said it, I have no idea. I didn't watch those videos. I haven't watched too many, honestly, now that I've been doing this type of style of content. I'm basically just reading articles, but it doesn't have to stop with YouTubers either. It can start with, Game Rant or IGN or other articles, and it's like, once they get a taste for some of that power and control, once they find a way that works, they'll continue to use it, right? And again, Visa also didn't have to bow to this because, again, nothing that was happening was illegal. Like, this is really weird. This is weird with what's going on because none of this is really making any sense. Now, there have been some other things in the past. I got to encounter this myself, so I remember it. But Visa also had an idea to implement a merchant copy category code or a merchant category code for firearms and for stores. It was just another way to basically track firearms and to track purchases and all of that stuff. And if you've never bought a firearm, let me tell you, it is actually incredibly challenging to really buy a firearm. Okay, they literally tear apart your entire history. There's FICA, which is, or FISA, I forget exactly which it is, but they have an entire database of everything on you, and that's what that background credit check is for. And then you also have to fill out a questionnaire, and then there's also a lot of regulations and permits that stores have to go through. All of those firearms are tracked and regulated, and I'm not saying that it's impossible, okay, to cheat or fudge the system or whatever, but man, let me tell you, it's kind of insane when you don't have a permit, because it can still take you months or even over a year to actually get those permits. So with stuff happening just after COVID, with Antifa and BLM and some other things, a lot of people were buying firearms. And I think we had somebody at work that was number 10,000 whatever in the queue, which was insane. And yeah, he waited like 9 months to actually get his firearm. So it didn't really matter or anything. But again, Visa was working on having a system to actually track all of this stuff. Also with MasterCard and Discover, and there's been enough pushback that that's been put on hold or pause, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to try again later. But I even had a purchase in 2022, I think, that was declined because it was firearm related. It wasn't actually a firearm, it was just firearm related. I remember too that sometimes with Google, during that time period as well, that Google was stopping people from being able to search firearms. It was pretty much impossible to actually get it to pull up. Now that's been removed or some things have calmed down since then. But again, censorship is a real issue. And when you start thinking about the search engines, the internet providers, the few companies that really control all of the money in the world, you really don't have any power if they don't let you have any. And that's really the point that I'm trying to make here. Also, too, timeline of video game controversies. You can go to National Coalition Against Censorship, and a lot of this is free, if not all of it. But like, we've had controversies for a while. But like, this is an example in 76 Death Race. The point was to run over as many gremlins as possible within the given time frame. According to video game historian, what got everyone upset about about Death Race was that you heard a little when the person got hit. Again, it was a gremlin; it wasn't a person, and that it actually got it pulled from the shelves in the store. We also had issues with Mortal Kombat in '93, featured lifelike and realistic violence. That would be a joke today because again, graphics have gone so far. But again, that was in '93, and yeah, that actually got some congressional attention, which was insane. Also, ESRB was created in '94, and the rating system is strictly voluntary. However, nearly all video games are submitted for rating because many retail stores prohibit the sale of unrated video games. And also, major console manufacturers will not license games for their system unless they carry an ESRB. So again, it's voluntary, wink wink, but not really. And again, all of this is just to subvert liability. These companies, this is all they're doing it for. They're not doing it for the betterment of their heart or because of their moral judgment. They care about money, and they also want to protect the money that they make, and they don't want to be fined to death, right? And there's plenty of other things here too. There's been multiple for Grand Theft Auto, like Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City. Again, it was too violent, or even like the hot coffee mod. That was a thing too, and it's just like, oh, that's bad. I even remember one of the GTAs getting a adult rating, which again makes it one more year from 17 to 18. And it's like retailers didn't want to have rated A games like at all. So we just don't have any. So all of the companies basically all of the developers and publishers have to make sure that their games basically make the M and not the A. So yeah, there technically is an A rating, but I don't think we've had an A rating in like forever. But again, that is there. And again, all of the stuff with Steam and payment processors and all of this stuff, you still have to age verify if it's rated A. Okay? You still have to do that. And even if it's rated M at 17, you have to, even though it's quote for minors, you still have to have adults, your parents, your guardians, whatever, show ID anyway to prove that you can buy the game. Like, this thing is so freaking convoluted. It's ridiculous. If you want to know where I stand, to a degree, I'll let my kids watch Dark Souls. So that's where I'm at. Because I think the world that's coming is honestly going to be a heck of a lot worse than just something on a video game. There was also things, too, with violent video games and minors. This was 2022. And we already had the Protection Child of Video Game S and Violence Act of 2023. This was in the state of Washington. And retailers could be fined $500, for selling games to minors. Again, everything is rated M now, so it really doesn't matter. We also had video game regulations pushed by Hillary Clinton. Thank you so much. For new regulations on video game sales after controversy of the hot coffee mod. Again, it's a mod. It's not what they made the game for. And that'd be made available online for Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And I actually remember that one. That was 2005. And this continues to be, a lot of different stuff. Like, this has been going on for a while. And the biggest thing lately has been violence in video games. So right now it's corn, okay, according to Collective Shout in Australia. But yeah, who's to say it's not going to turn over to violence again? Maybe it can't be rated M. Now, Peggy over in the UK actually has an 18 plus, which, hey, let's get into that a little bit. Let's talk about, Let's talk about Velatro. This actually received a 18 rating after a while. It was initially rated for younger, but, the thing was that it wasn't because it actually had gambling, but because of representations of gambling. And so it received an adult rating, and which seemed extremely unfair because, good call, ad, go away, please. Apparently not. But yeah, it was incredibly unfair because it's like, okay, what about all of the other games that actually have gambling mechanics in it, like EA Sports FC? And that's rated for 3-year-olds by Peggy, which is ridiculous. So Peggy actually reversed this rating, but again, the damage was already done. I think they reversed it to like 12-year-olds. But again, the damage was already done. Okay, it took it off shelves. It got less promotion. Since it was rated 18, there was a lot of other digital storefronts as well that were not promoting it as much like it was in the past. And again, this is just a representation of gambling. And I'm sure the game is somewhat addictive or fun, right? That's kind of the point of a lot of video games. But the creator now of Balatro is going to work on making it actually free, and is actually going to bring it to the console. Actually, we already have it on console. And but yeah, it'll eventually become free as well at some point. But like, this also was a form of censorship, in my opinion, simply because it was one guy making a video game and making a whole bunch of money, and basically the big AAA publishers like EA and Activision or Take-Two Interactive or whatever, they basically went after this guy and was like, hey Peggy, can you do us a favor? And so yeah, they gave it 18. But yeah, when shown the discrepancy between all of these other games, like who can forget Star Wars Battlefront 2 with all of the loot box situation, and even possibly being banned in other countries. So like EA had to change and tweak all of that, and now the game's like been blown up again on Steam because it's a fun game, but again, it was marred by the entire microtransaction loot box system. And Ubisoft is like, yeah, microtransactions make games more fun. Man, get the frick out of here! Are you kidding me? Get out of here. Anyway, let's not get too off a topic. But yeah, this was another part of censorship. Let's talk about another one. Ready or Not sparked controversy. Again, this was a game that had been kind of in early access and on Steam for a while, but since it actually had to be put over to be on console, well, they had to make some, quote, extra accommodations to get those agreements, because again, the console's okay a game to actually be on. So yeah, they made some of these accommodations, they made some of these changes, but again, this is just another form of censorship. And while I think some things should not be in video games, I think it's good to represent a simulation of real life in video games to get people to think about how things are for some people. Okay, like people being in containers due to trafficking, and they're not entirely clothed. Yeah, I think people should kind of think about that a little bit, and how disgusting that is, and how free corn is not always a great thing, of course, to be a part of or support, just because of that particular reason. And and there's plenty of other reasons too, in my opinion, or to like how war focused on World War II a ton in these video games like Medal of Honor and also Call of Duty. Okay, it was to show the horribleness of war. And yeah, that's a good thing. Is it violent? Is it nasty? Yeah. But it's like that really happens to people. That really did happen to people. And I think showing that level of shock to a degree, and bringing some reality into a video game to get people and players to think about it, I think that's important. Do I think that should be shown necessarily to kids? No. But again, I don't think it should be completely barred from video games. And Ready or Not is an example. I'm actually waiting for this to go on sale so that I can actually buy this. Let's keep talking about this, though, because now we have UK just implemented the Online Safety Act, which is basically mandating online platforms, including social media, search engines, and adult content providers, to enforce stringent child protection measures or face fines up to $18 million or 10% of global revenue. And exactly what is this? This is basically requiring like facial recognition and other private information of minors and adults too. That was also explicitly stated because, again, they can't ensure or guarantee. So it's not just kids, okay? It's like everybody needing to basically have facial recognition. This is how these companies are deeming the solution. And this is also tracking adults as well to make sure that you're not a kid. So again, this is not just for children. This is literally for everybody. And again, not everybody is really agreeing about this in the United States. Because, yeah, the petition online against the Safety Act has already reached over 420,000 signatures in a few days. Again, this can run through this can run for a while. U.S. Parliament only needs 100,000 signatures for an actual debate to happen in Parliament. But yeah, the new age verification is supposed to be enforced in 2020 or in July 25, which has already come to pass. But yeah, a lot of people are not very excited about this. And here it is right here. It's people are signing it This is a real lifetime tracker. But yeah, people are signing this already. And so, yeah, this debate is going to happen. And but yeah, it's like, okay, do we need to track all of the faces? What happened to the regulations that we already have through Xbox or PlayStation or Steam or whatever, and the parental controls that they have put in there? What happened to also to parents being parents? I get to decide what my kid gets to see on the TV, right? How I raise them, how I nurture them, what I let them experience, and when. I get to decide that as a parent. It's not the government, and it's not these motherfucking companies. It's me. It's me and my wife. And that's how it should be. And again, we are taking more responsibility away from parents and putting it on governments. And should that be a good thing? In my opinion, no. Because let's look at some more. Now, the United States has a Kids Online Safety Act that aims to enhance protections for children online. Again, it would require everybody, not just kids, right? Because the system needs to make sure that you are not a kid, right? This is for everybody. Yeah, for the safety and well-being. Okay, let's read it. Duty of care. It's to be established for social media platforms to protect minors from harmful content, including the SUE, eating disorders, and exploitation. Privacy controls. The bills require platforms to implement strong privacy settings for minors by default, and I think that should be there already. And I think in most cases that already is. And provide options for parents to control their children's online experiences. Again, you can do that through phones. You can do that through consoles. You can do that through computers. Any PC, laptop, okay, that's already built in. And then there's also other stuff added already through like Facebook Meta and Twitter X and all of this stuff. Maybe not all of them, but some of this already, again, is already implemented. Also, to transparency and accountability. Mandates, independent audits and research to assess how online platforms impact the well-being of children and teens, ensuring that parents and policymakers are informed about the measures taken by these platforms. So basically, everything needs to be understood and figured out and whatever. But hey, let's go ahead and actually take a look at what this is. Again, this is congress.gov bill. You can literally look at anything in the year or any previous year, basically. And this is basically an archive database where you can read a bunch of this stuff. But let's talk about how they actually want to study this. The study shall consider benefits of creating a device or operating system level age verification system. Again, this would be for everybody. Your face is held by companies and the government. That's really nice. If you already have a visa, or you already have, a real identification card in the United States, your face is already copied somewhere, and that kind of sucks. Secondly, what information may need to be collected to create this type of age verification? Again, they'll probably always collect more than they need, like they always have. Also, the accuracy of such systems and their impact and steps to improve accessibility, including for individuals with disabilities. And then how much a system or systems could age verification, how much a system could verify age while mitigating risks to user privacy and data security and safeguarding minors. Again, any database out there, server, farms, whatever, none of them are unhackable. And again, this is just spreading more crap. And one ways that they do for verification in a lot of ways is address is not enough anymore. Neither are pay stubs anymore to a degree. Even in some cases, not even your birth certificate. So what do they like? They like your social security number, which of course that is a fraud issue and problem. And also, yeah, safeguarding minors' personal data, which again, they already have an SSN. Boy, they better not use that. Emphasizing minimizing the amount of data collected and processed by covered platforms and age verification providers. So yeah, there's going to be age verification providers now for such a system. And again, this is not built, but they want to pass a law before they really know anything. And they want to do the study after it's passed. That seems backwards. Incredibly backwards. Also, the technical feasibility. Well, we have 5G, so that's not going to be any problem, including devices currently in commerce and owned by consumers. So this includes consoles, computers, your phones, your tablets, etc. And again, if this is just for online content for social platforms, let's see, what all was it again? I guess they haven't necessarily said, but anything with an internet connection, right? And yeah, this is what they're planning on doing. Also, the impact of different age verification systems on competition, particularly the risk of different age verification systems creating barriers to entry for small companies. And again, this can impact companies trying to pick and choose exactly who they should go with and how well that can be melded together in a unified or a unious system. And this is just going to create more problems, and it's going to make the big ones ultimately have more control than the small companies that again have to comply and deal with all of this. So if we've been enjoying all of the indie games, if we've been enjoying all of the smaller storefronts or all of the independent stuff outside of Steam, PC, and Xbox, this is going to Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation, excuse me. This is going to make it more challenging for smaller companies that would now have to abide to add a whole nother layer of age verification, which is a lot more expensive and costly, and is also going to take longer, too. And it's going to make it harder for more competition to actually get into the market to even start. Because again, they got a whole nother layer of implementation that they need to do. So you're effectively going to create more monopolization. Like again, this has always happened in the past. And yeah, they want this, no later than 1 year after the date of enactment of this act. So someone's basically got to do it in less than 12 months. And let's talk about how some of this has gone in the past when the government's been in control. I think about the U.S. Patriot Act. This was after 9/11 here in the United States, and it was basically to keep track of terrorist possibilities or communications or whatever. And so what this did is it effectively allowed everybody to be monitored. Everybody. Certain words in phone calls, certain words in text messages, basically that keywords would get flagged, and then all of that stuff would get processed, and you don't know anything about it. It just happens. Your privacy is literally out there, and then when there's a data breach, which happened with Verizon, then all of your crap is out there everywhere, right? And then people that have nefarious intentions can use that data, pretend to be someone else, etc. Phishing has gotten so bad. I wonder why. I wonder why, folks, and it's partly because of stuff like this. And yeah, this will never be revoked. And even with what's happening with cyber attacks now from other countries like China and Iran and maybe even North Korea and some others like Russia, etc., and even others that we don't know about or we don't talk about or isn't in the media, who's to say there isn't another Patriot Act 2.0 that comes down the line? Again, further encroaching on our privacy and our data. Ultimately, folks, we don't have control over anything already, and it's continuing to get worse. Now, I also want to bring this up. This is about the COVID vaccine. And again, this was another thing about it's mandatory. It's for your safety. We don't care about what your opinions or beliefs are. So yeah, let's go ahead and listen.
A protein in that it will present on the surface and cell and will become a setup for autoimmune disorders. Separate from that, spike protein in and of itself is biologically active. And to understand what happened to my injury, I found researchers who had predicted this was going to happen. It causes cells to grow and divide when they should not. It was published in December 2020, although not widely known, that was causing damage to placenta and to lung. I was probably one of the very few doctors that knew that shot did not stay in the arm, and I don't even know how I found that information, but I would say that was virtually unknown, and later I found this out to be true. I only found out spike protein was toxic later when I met the researchers, and I asked, how did you think to research that? Because they knew in 2005 with SARS-1 that spike protein alone, without the virus, would be enough to harm an animal. Later, in the research of the original novel bat human coronavirus, this is the 2015 research at UNC with Dr. Ralph Barrick, NIH, and Wuhan Labs. That was the gain-of-function research, and so they had a SARS virus that became more lethal, more transmissible. They attempted to do a vaccine for that trial. That was a traditional vaccine, not mRNA. They had vaccine-induced harm and lethality in the animals, and in the pathology slides of these animals, this is mice, you can see the same vascular lung damage that we're seeing today with SARS-2.
So they knew all of this. They
Yes.
knew this.
Yes.
They knew this.
Yes.
And
This
if
was
they
knowable.
lied to us, they rolled this out, billions were made, they called it safe and effective, they mandated it, and they knew this.
I actually know of someone personally that died. Perfectly healthy, got the shot, was sick within 24 hours, had to be hospitalized within less than 48, and was dead by the end of the week. It's kind of rough digging through this stuff again. But yeah, you you trust the governments if you want. But personally, in the name of safety, that's a red flag for me now, as it is for a lot of people. And again, I don't trust the government's implementation. I don't trust how they handle information. I don't trust any of this stuff. And now they're going to have like scans of our faces. And what other information are they going to deem necessary? We don't get to choose. Whether it's Visa, MasterCard deciding what we get to buy, or whether it's, requirements for, like with Velatro, being unfair with how they give out ratings, whether it's safety, okay, whether it's the Patriot Act, whether it's, in the name of safety, mandatory shots for stuff that's untested, that they already knew was damaging and harmful and even fatal to animals back in 2005, for Pete's sakes. And it's like abnormal growth and splitting. There's another word for that. That's cancer. And the myocarditis and the strokes and the heart attacks and other, inhibited lung function. The people that actually started calling the bells on this first is all the conspiracy folks. But like the first big companies, it was the life insurance policy companies. And it's because they were seeing way too many deaths after the virus itself was no longer deadly globally. And they're like, wait a minute, people are still dying. What are they dying from? Life insurance companies ringing the bell? And morticians being censored? The censorship through Google, through YouTube, through Facebook, Twitter X, didn't matter. The censorship was literally insane. And, who's to say that it can't happen again? And, this is just talking about video games. But guys, this is really encompassing on everything. It's your money, it's your banking, it's your permits, it's your licensing, it's your education, okay? It's your internet providers. Again, you and I, we don't control shit. All of these government agencies, government boards, big companies, they control everything. Anyway, with that, folks, if you really liked it, don't just like, sub, and share, but, comment too. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on any of this? And guys, it's time to stop being passive. It's time to stop letting the government figure out stuff or just be like, oh yeah, it'll work itself out in the end, or I can't affect anything. Really? Can't affect anything? What about stop killing games? 1.4 million plus signatures. The European government's going to have to look at it. Also, the pushback with $80 video games on Xbox. For this holiday, at least in 2025, everything is now going to be $70. Guys, we have a voice, okay? If Collective Shout from Australia can affect the world on what's on Steam, so can we. There's way more of us. So with that, folks, thanks for tuning in. You can always, subscribe at Gaming Garbage 22. There's also playlists there. There's a lot of gaming, states of gaming that we have, and there's initial looks and reviews when I can do them, and there's gaming news as well. But yeah, I really wanted to talk about this one. But yeah, you can also follow me over at Twitch, Don't Turn on the. And yeah, when I'm playing video games, I'll definitely chat with you guys. So yeah, but yeah, if you appreciate this content, definitely share it. Please, fight that algorithm for you and me. With that, folks, we'll see you guys on the next one.